Hey, I'm Tribune sports editor Aaron Falk here with Andy Larsen. Andy, we've got one Jazz preseason game under our belts, and Ace Bailey looked great. I'm just wondering, after kind of a draft filled with drama, what the start of this season has been like for the number 5 overall pick.
Yeah, look, I think, when it was first drafted, there was so much talk about whether or not he wanted to be in Utah and how he would fit in and kind of what had, was the worst team in the NBA last year. And all that has kind of gone away as he's kind of worked with the rest of the Jazz's young players and their coaching staff. I mean, I think he's grown to like what they have envisioned for him as a player in the NBA. I think kind of being off the ball, coming off of screens, and then I think just he is fitting in well with his teammates, right? Like they like him. He is still very young, and it kind of shows in his personality, but it's a very energetic. It's a boisterous personality for a young kid, and it's been really kind of fun to see that enthusiasm kind of being injected into this Jazz team that I think needed a dose of it.
So we saw him. He looked pretty good in the limited summer league that he played. Finally gets a really extended run against a higher level of competition. It's preseason. Let's not make too many assumptions here, but gets matched up against Kevin Durant against the Rockets in that opening game. Wondering what you saw from Ace on the court that you liked. Maybe things that you think they're going to key in on over the next little while to work on. What was that debut like?
Yeah, I thought he played extremely well and was so decisive in his actions. And that's something that Will Hardy had talked about. Hey, making quick decisions with the ball. We saw that, right? Like we saw him come off of screens, come off baseline pin downs, come just get the ball kind of swing action and then immediately go to work, and not in the hey, I'm going to do a lot of dribble moves kind of way, but immediately get himself into the basket area just by his using that athleticism, using kind of some of that quick touch stuff that the quick that really kind of makes him special, right? Like that is what one of the things that Ace Bailey has stood out for his entire career, why he was a hyped prospect in high school, something that the Jazz just don't have in any other of the young players they have, and he was immediately able to use that to good effect to get 25 points, right? So super encouraging how, again, Will Hardy was using him in the offense, and how he's taken to already improving since when we saw him in summer league, and obviously at Rutgers as well.
It's an interesting first game in that Ace Bailey is in a way Kevin Durant disciple, right? And so you get to see that. But I mean, I guess I'm interested how Will Hardy may see the comparisons or the contrasts of a player like Durant, who obviously is a Hall of Fame player, and a rookie like Ace Bailey, and then maybe how the differences you expect, what differences you expect this rookie season for Ace.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's always kind of been compared to Kevin Durant, and it makes sense because he is lanky. He does shoot over the top of guys with that high release in a way that not a lot of NBA players, not a lot of basketball players do. In the end, has grown to be 4 or 5 inches shorter than Kevin Durant, and so probably isn't going to be playing like a lot of four in the NBA, for example. I think he's more of a shooting guard two or wing three. But I think it was a cool opportunity for him to play against one of his heroes growing up. And Will Hardy said, I watched some early Kevin Durant film. I watched some early Jason Tatum film, and trying to understand how these really star level young players developed into the top NBA players that they are from kind of the get go. And so I think that's one thing that we'll see a lot of is kind of development in terms of in terms of Ace getting better at other aspects of the game first. I think he knows how to score the ball. Now it's how do you kind of play within a five-man NBA team construct. But it could not have been more encouraging.
Yeah, and obviously high praise from Durant after the game. Says he's a hell of a player, and went out of his way to say, "I love that he was drafted to Utah
Yeah.
because of that development." I mean, it's been a few years here of stripping the team down. What do you like about the way Will Hardy develops players and might be able to help an obviously talented player like Ace Bailey excel?
Yeah, that was a really interesting thing to hear from, a player who's never been affiliated with the Jazz, doesn't know Will Hardy, and but knows the reputation of the Jazz, right? And him as a head coach. And I think Will, worked with Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio, has worked with Jason Tatum in Boston, worked with some of these young wings before, and has this reputation around the league as a really good player development coach, as a patient developer, as a kind of a smart, kind of knowing how to get the best out of players early on in their careers. And so the Jazz have been up and down in terms of like how these prospects have turned out over the last few years, right? The 8 young players they've drafted in the last 3 drafts, but to hear that that someone like Kevin Durant still has that belief in Will Hardy and his coaching staff is great. I think Ace has the highest potential on this roster by a lot. And so if that, combination works out, and so far it has, it's one game of one preseason, but we have seen strides, then if that continues, then yeah, the sky is kind of the limit for Ace.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like what started as drama might be a huge win for the Jazz if things keep clicking and keep falling into place. Obviously, a change in management for Ace Bailey, but just his vibe in terms of being here and being in Utah, it seems like that has really fallen off and in a way since the original draft night drama, right?
Yeah, it's not a problem, and again, I think he's additive to the group because he does bring like this. He's so young, right? Just barely turned 19, and it shows. But like, he brings that youthful boisterousness and enthusiasm and just like spirit to the Jazz's practices and even games. I thought at times, I thought like his joy was kind of infectious for the Jazz against the Houston Rockets. So yeah, like again, this there was a lot of drama and understandably with the Omar Cooper situation. I think that was real and there was real concern around the league and even within the Jazz about that. And now that he's moved on and found kind of real NBA MBPA approved representation, it's not anticipated to be a problem anymore. And so yeah, now Ace can add to kind of the vibe of the group in a really positive way. And I think you see him interacting with like Walter Clayton or Keontae George or Taylor Hendricks, and they just kind of bounce off each other and I think a positive way that lifts the whole group spirit. So yeah, that's been really fun to watch.
Well, Jazz fans are going to need a little bit of joy where they can find it this year, most likely. So we will keep on it. And Andy, thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, thanks again.